If we are going to, as we must, provide refuge for those fleeing the war in Ukraine, we need to do everything we can to relieve pressure on the housing services. And a simple measure, which I suggested to the Minister for Housing a number of weeks ago, and he was looking for suggestions, is to stop evictions, as we did during the COVID emergency, because evictions are rising. It is increasing the number of people, families and so on, going into homeless services who shouldn't be there, but putting more and more pressure on our housing services. And similarly, on the issue of vacant buildings, we wrote weeks ago suggesting specific buildings in my constituency, and we've heard absolutely nothing about what the government intends to do to put those buildings into use for those affected both by the refugee crisis and the housing crisis.
Deputy Boyd Barrett, of course every effort has been made to prevent evictions, and the Minister has a series of measures taken to try and reduce and minimise evictions within the housing service. But the reality is that when over 30,000 people come within 3 months into a country fleeing war and the agony and trauma of war, the response has to be different to what would normally be the response. And that's why so much significant accommodation has been procured by the state in order to provide sufficient and adequate accommodation for Ukrainians who have fled war. And in addition to that, the work of the Irish Red Cross in terms of those houses that have been pledged is ongoing also to provide additional supports. And that's why the reconfiguration of buildings is the real issue here, is really to get scale and volume through existing buildings that are not being used, and to get them used and refurbished if necessary.